Hey everybody, and welcome to the live show. I moved it to Sundays because football's still on. And my team's out, Buffalo Bills, and my son team is out, the Seattle Seahawks. So we're getting down to towards Super Bowl Sunday. So we're doing it on a Monday. I'm glad you're with us. I just wanted to announce while we wait for people to load on with their questions. The North American Car, Utility, and Truck of the Year were announced this morning. Now, this used to be sort of the rite of passage at the first day of the Detroit Auto Show, but those who are not aware, Detroit has been moved. They've moved it to June. There was a big complaint from media like myself that would have to travel to Detroit in January. A lot of the German manufacturers pulled out of the Detroit show. Actually, a lot of manufacturers pulled out of the Detroit show and protested and said, listen, we're not happy, and they've moved it to June. But they still wanted to announce at the beginning of the year the North American Car and Truck of the Year. And auto journalists like myself are chosen from around North America. They include Canada, the United States, and Mexico, men and women, and they choose the vehicles. And the North American Car of the Year, is the Chevrolet Corvette. Now I'm getting a chance to drive this in about a month's time, so I'm looking forward to that. We're doing it on the track in Arizona. Arizona. The North American Utility of the Year, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, is the Kia Telluride. And you can go back and watch my review of the Telluride when it came out in the spring, and I absolutely thought it was a home run, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And then the North American Truck of the Year, and I encourage you to watch the video I did of this vehicle because I was so smitten with it. I just thought it was fantastic, is the all-new Jeep Gladiator. So Corvette, Telluride, and Jeep Gladiator, all North American Car, Utility, and SUV of the Year. All right, lots of people loading in, so let's get on to this. Hey, Zach, at the end of lease, you have a buyout price. Is that buyout price negotiable at the end of the lease, or is it firm? Well, you have signed a piece of paper, and you have committed to paying a certain amount for the car over the term of the lease, and then you have the option to buy it for that set amount. What isn't written into the contract is the fact that you might, as the leasee, have more equity in the car. For example, say you were supposed to do, or you signed up and paid for 20,000 kilometers a year, so that over 3 years, that's 60,000 kilometers, but you only used, say, 25, so you have a lot of additional kilometers in that lease, which means the car is worth more money. We'll pick round numbers. We'll say the buyout is supposed to be 10,000. You can go back to the company and say, listen, there's very low kilometers or very low miles on this car. Why don't you give me some equity into the next vehicle because there's still equity in this car? You could say, hey, you know, maybe $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 down on the next lease. That's something you can do. If they don't want to do that, you can then just buy the car for the set amount and sell it in the marketplace yourself. But then you get into tax implications. You have to pay sales tax. You can't get it reimbursed unless you're a company. So that's really the only thing that you can negotiate on a closed lease, is maybe there's some equity in the car that you can negotiate with them to roll over into the next vehicle. That's about it. All right. Hey, Zach, looking to trade my RAV4 for something different, looking for something more refined, smooth after owning Toyotas and considering switching to the Audi A4. Should I buy extended warranty? I am a huge fan of the Audi A4. I think it's a great all-round car. I think you're going to like driving it. It certainly is lively and fun. It feels light on its feet. It's got great handling, fantastic engine, very efficient, great transmission, nicely put together. The new one is going to be arriving here shortly. They did a facelift on it with new lights and a new infotainment screen that is now touch sensitive. So look at the review I did of the new A4 and see if that's the one you want or the current one that has the MMI controller in the center. So that's the real main difference. Some people don't like the direction they're going with the styling, so pick like a current 2019 or 20, or maybe wait for the slightly refreshed one. Now, should you have an extended warranty? Well, if you're getting a brand new car, you don't need to worry about it today, tomorrow, or even for 4 years. So the car comes with a 4-year warranty, and I always tell people, do not buy extended warranties when the car is brand new, because you're paying for it often in payments for 4 years before you're ever going to be able to utilize it. So I would go at the end of the 4-year factory warranty. And here's another great reason to possibly lease, is lease the car for 4 years. The car company owns the car, you're the leasee. If you buy it out, then you're buying a used car. It extends, it will qualify for the extended certified pre-owned warranty for 2 additional years. So yes, you can buy a warranty, do it at the end of the regular bumper-to-bumper warranty. I randomly came across 2 conversations within a week. 2 Mercedes owners voicing their displeasure about their service experience. Listen, whenever you own a high-end car and it needs to be fixed or go in for service, sometimes these are really painful conversations to have with your service advisor. This car needs X and it's going to cost this amount of money. So that's another reason why I always like to say, keep your German cars under warranty. And yeah, it still doesn't get around the fact that the service guy might be a jerk or you're not treating you well. Here's the news flash. If you're not getting satisfaction at one dealer, go to another one. You don't have to go to the place you bought the car. That's a misconception some people have. Hi, Zach. I'm looking for an all-wheel drive sedan. Could be used. What would you recommend? Please, more information. All-wheel drive sedan. Do you want to spend 30 or 130? Do you need it to be big, small, or medium size? I need more information. Are you a sporty driver? You want relaxed? You want quiet? You want aggressive? I can't read your mind. When will you be getting the 2020 Nissan Sentra? Well, when it arrives here in my local town. I couldn't go on the launch. I wasn't available to go. I was already committed to going to another, plus there was like 5 events that week. I will get it when I get a chance. All right. Hey, Zach, 2018 A4 all-road C-Class Estate or 3 Series Touring. Looking for the best wagon for my family of 4. Prioritizing driving pleasure, best all-wheel drive system for winter weather and space for 2 car seats. These are all compact, or they're classified as compact cars. I would suggest what you start out with first and foremost is which one is going to fit your family the best. And by that, I mean what people fitting in the back seat. Are the car seats going to fit? Is the stroller going to fit in the back? These are all things that you need to try and go to the dealer with the car seats, with the diaper bag, with the stroller, put them in and just, you know, if they look at you funny, who cares? Then you need to drive all 3 of them and see which one you like. I wouldn't get too hung up on the all-wheel drive system. Listen, these are all advanced all-wheel drive systems. One is more of a front-wheel bias. That's the Audi system, but it has been calibrated more with that sort of off-road package or all-road to give a slightly different feel. I think that you buy the one you like, the one that you fits your family best, and the one that's going to give you the best deal from the dealership as well. There is no wrong answer with all of these. I particularly like all of them. They're, you know, so 3 Series is going to be the newest. Audi A4 will be the newest when the new one arrives here. If it's not at the dealer now, it will be any day. And the C-Class is the oldest. There you go. There's no wrong answer. A GLS has 38,000 kilometers on it and brakes and tires needed to be replaced only 3 years in. They say brakes are softer and better performance, but don't last at all. Before I changed tires at 70,000, brakes at 80,000. I'm not sure what the car was that you were driving before, but I highly doubt at 70 and 80,000 kilometers you were driving a German car. My old Cayenne at, what did it have on it? 35,000 K or so, it needed new brakes. German cars have brakes designed to do incredible things, but they're expensive to maintain. Tires, the same thing. So typically when you get a lot of high-end cars, they come with high-end tires that are softer to make them drive and handle better. That's why you have a premium tire, but they can scrub through quickly. So yeah, this is really the cost of ownership of owning a high-end import car. They're easy to buy, they're expensive to maintain. So buyer beware. When you buy or lease a high-end car, you can go through the brakes, and when they're replaced, they're very, very expensive. Ask me how I know. Eric says, hey Zach, I live in Quebec and purchased a vehicle in Ontario. Which provincial taxes do I pay? Where the car will be registered, or when I purchase it, or both? It's actually both. So for those that are not aware, in Canada we have a national tax called the GST, Goods and Services Tax. That's 5% on anything purchased in any province. So you will pay that when you pay for the car. Your GST will be paid. Provincial tax will be paid where you register the car. So I can't remember what the tax is in Quebec. I think it's one of the highest in the country, unfortunately for you. So when the car is either driven or shipped to Quebec and you go to the Quebec license office to register the car in the province, that's probably where you pay it. I'm not sure, it could be different province to province, but the GST is paid where you purchase the car. PST is paid where you register the car. Okay, they can often ship the car for you or give you temporary plates and insurance to get you back to your home province. Raul says, what is the most reliable Range Rover Sport model year to buy used? That's like a loaded question. Is there a more reliable Range Rover Sport model to buy used? I don't know. I got a friend of mine who's got a Range Rover Sport, and he listed the work orders for the vehicle under the extended warranty that he did purchase, and it's staggering how much they paid to keep that thing on the road. It's unbelievable. I would say probably the newest is going to be the better. So the newer you can get it, the better. Please, please, just like German cars, English cars, British cars, under warranty as long as you can. That's the best rule of advice. And also, if you're buying pre-owned, please get it inspected by a Range Rover specialty mechanic, or if you're buying it from one Land Rover dealer, take it to another Land Rover dealer, make sure they're not owned by the same people, and get them to do the pre-purchase inspection. But the typical rule of thumb is the newest is the better. There's been more years and more refinements with the vehicle and updates. And the nice thing is with the Range Rover Sport is the current model's been out for quite a few years, so they've improved them as they've gone along. Zach, when will the Golf Mark 8 be available in Canada, and what are your thoughts on the new design? Well, there's the new Mark 8 thumbnail for the video, and the video is on the channel. So if you haven't watched it, I hope you have time to go and check it out, because I kind of talk about that in the video. Here are the Coles notes. There's so many Golf models being affected between now and when this new Mark 8 arrives in Canada. So what we're going to get in Canada is the base model Golf, okay? In the United States, they're not taking the Golf. They're only taking GTI and Golf R. So Canada will get GTI, Golf, and Golf R, okay? It will be coming not this summer. We're already in 2020. So not the summer of 2020, but the summer of 2021. So roughly a year and a half from now, maybe a little less than a year and a half, we will get the Golf, the GTI, and the Golf R all within probably a month or 6 weeks of each other. And you're probably saying, well, how is that possible? The GTI and the Golf R aren't out yet. Well, they will be introduced in Europe. So the Golf is out now. If you live in Europe, you can go and buy one or order one and get it delivered in a short period of time. And very soon, we're going to start to see the GTI and the Golf R. So by the time the Mark 8 comes to Canada, those other iterations will be available at the same time. Now, what do I think of the design? It looks much better in person. Like the negative comments, so watch, if you haven't watched it, or if you watch it, go and look at it again just to read the comments, because the comments, there's a whole lot of hate for this new design. And I have to tell you, having driven it and lived with it for a couple of days and looked at it, it does look better in person. And it's one of those things that when you see it on the road, it really makes the old car look old. And I think that's obviously a goal of a manufacturer. So it's... And Thomas Tesla from Volkswagen Canada, who I was a guest with him in Europe to drive it, he has seen the GTI and the Golf R not available for public consumption, and he just basically said, oh yeah, they're going to look good. So that's all I can say. Looking into a high-performance SUV, currently leaning towards the Range Rover RVR, mainly because of the power, looks, and interior. I like the Cayenne, but I'm not big on the design. Any other ideas? You might want to consider the RS Q8. Okay, so on the same platform basically as the Cayenne, Audi is bringing out an RS Q8. Once again, I did a video in Europe not that long ago, and I encourage you to go back on the channel and consider that car. That's something that you should have a look at. It's got the high performance engine, very similar to the Cayenne Turbo in the RS Q8. So that's something to have a look at. All right. Hey, Zach, is there news about an upcoming Infiniti Q50? When are they going to do a makeover? Thinking of buying one. Should I wait for a redesign? I was thinking about this actually because I have meetings with Nissan and Infiniti in Toronto next week. And I was thinking, like, this car dates back to, I believe, 2012. It's really old now. So they're long overdue for a redesign. The interesting thing is when you see a Q50 on the road, it's still a very nice looking car. It has aged very well, in my opinion. I think it looks good. Here's the thing is, there's going to be some great deals on the existing Q50s, which is a perfect opportunity to bring in CarCostCanada.com, the sponsor of the channel, and I guarantee you if you go onto CarCostCanada.com, you will find that there's going to be money on the hood of the Q50 each and every month. By the way, when you go onto CarCostCanada.com, type in Motormouth in the code, okay, the code, and you get to become an expert member with additional searches, and the searches don't time out. You get to keep them. So maybe you're not going to be looking or shopping for a car today. Well, go and sign up now and use the code Motormouth, become the expert member, and you can do all those extra searches. And that's a perfect vehicle to sort of check out because you bet there will be incentives on it all the time. I don't have an answer for you. But you better be getting a good deal if you're getting one. Hey, Zach, I'm thinking of buying a Toyota 4Runner. Are you a fan of the 4Runner? This is without a word of a lie. I was walking with my wife this morning with the dog, and there's loads of snow we got here last night in Vancouver, which is really quite rare. And I was walking along, and I must have walked by like 5 of the old 4Runners from the 90s, and I pointed at one and I said to my wife, look how many of these things are still around. And they all still look great too, by the way. Here's the thing. It's old technology. The engine is old. It's the 4-liter. It's a 6-cylinder. It's hard on fuel. The interior is a bit sort of archaic and ancient on the inside. It's a lumbering kind of real pickup truck-based SUV. But what you get, which you really can only get in a Wrangler for the most part, is that body-on-frame design and incredible resale value. So there is no downside to buying a 4Runner. You're going to maybe spend a little bit more money on gas because it's an older engine. And I'm trying to remember, is it a 5-speed automatic? I think it might be, or it might be a 6-speed. But you're going to drive that thing, and when you want to sell it, there's going to be a lineup out your door of people who want to buy it. So there really is no downside to buying a 4Runner. Or you can just keep it. Like the people near where I walk my dog, where they're still driving them 25 years later. Hi, Zach. Got a suggestion. When reviewing cars, please mention reliability and maintenance aspects. Well, Roy, there's a real issue with that, and people have said that to me before. Hey, why don't you talk about reliability? Well, here's the thing is, when I get an invite to go and drive a new car, often it's an all-new car. New Volkswagen Golf. You know, new Lincoln Corsair. These are new cars. So what is the reliability going to be? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. The vehicle has just come out. So for me to say, oh, don't buy this car because reliability is bad, well, that's a disservice to the manufacturer who has just spent a whole pile of money, often in the billions of dollars, to redo the car. What you can look at is historical trends for engines, because often engines are carried over from one to the other, transmissions, and you can look at individual components. For example, the engine in this Mark 8 Golf, for the most part, is carried over from the last model. Same thing with the Lincoln Corsair, even this Hyundai here. So yeah, you can look at those components and do a search for yourself. But for me to sort of trash a car because of maintenance for a brand new vehicle, it's kind of tricky. Raul says, what is your opinion of the Audi e-tron? Is it worth it? I like the Audi e-tron. What I like about it is it's a nice size. It's basically the size of a Touareg or a Cayenne. It's bigger than the Q5, smaller than the Q7, very close actually to the Audi Q8, a little bit smaller than that. So it's right size for me. I think it's a nice size. The build quality is really nice. It looks like a regular Audi. It doesn't look like a freaky kind of electric car. And whenever I see them on the road, I think it's a nice looking car. A lot of people think the range isn't up to what you can get with a Tesla. But then again, the inside of that car is nothing like a Tesla. It's much nicer on the inside. Is it worth it? I am not, regular viewers of this channel, I think that there's going to be so many electric cars coming in the next, 36 months that it's an expensive car. I'm not sure what, if any, sort of lease or incentives they have on them right now. But yeah, it's not a cheap car. And when you start doing the direct comparison to Tesla and what their vehicles are offering, you could look at it and say it's a value in comparison to a Model X, because those are very expensive. But then the Model X has more power, they're faster, they have more range. But then the interior is not nearly the same as the Audi. So I don't know your budget and your circumstances. I can tell you that Harvey Soicher, who was on my channel this past summer, drove his right across Canada to Newfoundland and then back through the United States here to Vancouver over 2 months, and it never set a wheel wrong. He absolutely loved it, and it basically overachieved for what he thought. He absolutely loves it. All right, sorry, I'm jumping around here. What's the best overall SUV on the market right now? Same thing. Somebody asked this question. What are you looking for? Small, medium, large? That's like the most basic question. I need more info, dude. Give me more info. Josh, welcome back, Josh. Montreal Auto Show starts Friday. Excited to see the premieres such as the Mach-E and others. Although my friend who owns a dealer in the city said many brands will be no-shows. It's really too bad. I mean, brands are really going through a big struggle with where they fit in the world and how much they want to spend on auto shows. What you don't know when you go to an auto show is the cost from these manufacturers to put these shows on is extortionately high. So those pavilions, those booths that they build are really expensive. Now, typically for a car manufacturer, they have to have 2 or 3 of them leapfrogging from one show to the next. And then they have to have different ones. They have to have a big one for a big auto show, a smaller one, and then a little sort of pop-up one they do for regional shows. So that's very expensive. Often the amount of money that these shows charge them to display is very, very high. And then you get into the hall where the show is actually taking place. And then you have to hire all of these workers through the hall. And a lot of them are unionized, and it's very expensive, and they charge. So the show charges you to put up your own display. And then you've got to load all the cars in and transport all the cars and move it from place to place. So auto shows are very expensive, and a lot of brands are looking back and thinking, listen, we could probably do our own events and attract people to our test drives and get them into the seats of our cars for a lot less money than it takes to put on an auto show. There you go. That's my thought on that. But here's the thing is, some shows are growing. I mean, Vancouver Auto Show has been growing the last few years. Hey, Zach, what is your favorite Porsche engine of all time? I would say, off the top of my head, I mean, you're looking at race car engines and you're looking at regular street cars. I think the air-cooled era are my favorites. I had 2 993s with a 3.6 liter. The turbo in that is pretty fantastic. You got the 918. There's so many different cars from different eras. But yeah, I would say probably the sort of air-cooled turbo engines, the era there are pretty cool for street cars, but race cars is a whole different thing. Tech Pro, what watch do you have on today? This is kind of interesting. So I bought this. This is a Seiko 5 from 1974 roughly, and I bought this, the head, off a friend of mine who's a watch dealer, a few $100, I don't know, $300 or something like that. So it's an orange Seiko 5 from the early 1970s. It came in a leather strap, and I watched for those who are watch people, The reason why he's asking this is because I'm a watch guy. So probably one of the top sites, if not the top site in the world, is Hodinkee, and they do their Talking Watches series. And I'm trying to remember, Edelman is the last name. Sam Edelman, he makes shoes, his brother. He has a cool watch collection, and he's got this very same watch. And I saw the bracelet that he has on his, and then I started looking around and I found a bracelet for this, and I just put it on yesterday. So there you go. 1974 Seiko 5 with a bracelet now. I like it now. It's quite cool. It's called the UFO. It looks like a flying saucer. There you go. Todd Coles, what do you know about the Toyota RAV4 Prime? When will it be out? Will you review this 300 horsepower, second fastest Toyota? Yes, I will. I've got a great relationship with Toyota, and I get invited to pretty much everything that they do. So yes, they will have an event for that. It's going to be released this summer. So I would expect there will be some kind of ride and drive event probably in June, and I'll get a chance to drive it. So it's a plug-in hybrid. I actually have the plug-in Prius Prime this week. It's not being the best. I'm not shooting this week because there's so much snow and ice around. So I'm getting the car back in a couple of weeks to finish up the shooting. But yeah, I like the technology. The great thing is with these Primes, you can plug them in just to a regular 120 volt outlet. And the one I have, it takes 4 hours to charge it. So yeah, maybe the range isn't as much, but you get that electric power, you get the extended range of the regular hybrid. So I think it's going to be a really interesting vehicle. Here's the thing. Mitsubishi shot the lights out with their PHEV. In Canada, for example, they sold way more than they thought they would. And it is the world's best-selling plug-in hybrid electric vehicle worldwide today. That is until this RAV4 comes out. So I think that is going to be the acid test. And I think that Mitsubishi is moving forward with their next PHEV because I think they know this is going to be a real contender. Is the ZF auto transmission actually good? I'm a huge double clutch fan. Should I favor one over the other? ZF transmissions are good generally. The sort of workhorse in the industry is the 8-speed automatic that's used by tons of different manufacturers. BMW uses it. That's the one that, ZF is the ZF 8-speeds used pretty much right across the industry. The 9-speed that they came out with that was used by Land Rover, it was used by Chrysler, used by Honda and Acura and others, was glitchy out of the gate. It was not the best. And a lot of the software updates to that transmission have helped. So if you're a huge double clutch fan, yeah, I would probably look at the ones that have had the best ratings from different manufacturers. Dual clutches are more problematic for maintenance and more expensive to fix, and it might be one of the reasons why a lot of brands are switching away from dual clutches again and back to regular torque converter transmissions. And the thing is, I got to tell you, the new batch of regular automatics are so quick and so good and so precise, you don't miss the old dual clutch. For example, Mercedes-Benz never went to a dual clutch with their cars. I think it's only their GT cars have the dual clutch. All of the rest of their street cars are regular torque converter automatics, and they're so quick and so precise, and those are 7 speeds, have been fantastic. But yeah, if you're looking for bulletproof 8-speed ZF for sure. Should we stay away from the Hyundai Kia dual clutch transmission? I don't know about that specifically. What I would do, there's a web forum for pretty much every car and brand on the planet. So do a Google search, put in there, you know, whatever, say it's a Tucson, say Hyundai Tucson dual web forum, and then get in there and you'll start to see the threads on that. I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you. What's the reason behind MirrorLink in the GLI if there's CarPlay and Android Auto? Thanks. Well, MirrorLink allows you to access other apps outside of Android and Apple. Yeah, it's a bit redundant. I agree with you. And I think that people who are used to using Android and Apple in their car will just gravitate towards that. But, MirrorLink was the phone the best way to get your phone onto the screen before those two technologies arrived. And you got to think about it. Android and Apple in the car has only been around basically for 3 years. 2016 were the first cars I can remember that had them. And for the most part, the first brands to implement it were Kia and Hyundai, and they were first out of the gate with Android because, of course, Korea is the home of Samsung. But there you go. That's the reason why it probably still exists. It's a legacy from before those two connectivity platforms. Looking at a 2020 Tiguan, but I've heard the reliability is not good. Any thoughts? Yeah, same thing again. Go and have a look at web forums about that particular car and see what pops up, any specific issues. The only issue I can think of that I noticed when it came to drivability is I found, back to the 8-speed transmission, the programming of the 8-speed, the car kind of stumbles a bit in first gear. And I think the reason they do that is they have a very short first gear just to get the wheels rolling in the car, and then they switch right away to second gear to get the gears up and the RPMs down as quickly as possible for fuel economy. And I don't love it. I think they could have had a better execution. Now, I haven't driven the Tiguan in about a year and a half, so I should get one back to see if it has been upgraded with software. Have you driven the Wrangler Eco Diesel? Same thing again. I was out walking the dog with my wife, and just down the street is a brand new Wrangler in white. Looked great, by the way, with the hard roof, painted roof. So the whole thing was white, but with the black, trim pieces on it. I thought it looked really, really good. And I said to her, doesn't that Wrangler look good? And she agrees. She thinks it looked really nice. But I said, the one I would get would be the Eco Diesel. So no, I haven't driven it yet. The car we have here in our press fleet locally now is the 3.6 liter Pentastar. But yeah, I got to get my hands on one because that's the one that I would buy. Because first of all, I'm a big fan of the Eco Diesel. I'm a big fan of torque. I'm a big fan of fuel economy. And torque in a Jeep, especially for off-roading, I think would be fantastic. All right, here's a proper question to those who give me the one-line question. I'm looking at an all-wheel drive sedan, under $40,000, mostly to be used around town, with occasional road trip. Something sporty would be nice. Sorry for the previously vague formulated question. There you go. Well done. You done good. Okay. So you're looking for an all-wheel drive sedan under $40,000, mostly used in town, occasional road trips. Something sporty would be nice. Well, there's probably now back to the same thing. What size are you looking for? So I would sort of lean towards a compact car. And then the premium cars are going to kind of be over that. But I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, something that, a Golf R at $40,000 would kind of tick all of those boxes. Now, I know it's not a sedan, but that vehicle with almost 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive, little hatchback car, loads of fun to drive, great in the city, very practical, and would be fantastic on the highway, would be a pretty nice car. Yeah, so now I'm going to throw it back at you. Any that have caught your eye? So the problem is all-wheel drive and a small car typically lead more into the premium space, okay? So entry-level premium, like a Genesis G70, something like that. Thoughts on the Lincoln Navigator? It's been around for 2-3 years now, considering lease, but it's a bit considering to lease, but is it a bit dated? Should I wait for an update or pull the trigger? Not in a rush, but be nice to have a new car. No, I don't think it's dated at all. It's only been out for 2 years, just over 2 years. It didn't come out this past summer, the summer before. So yeah, there's absolutely no problem with it being dated. And typically, if they're going to update it, it'd probably be in another 2 years when the vehicle's 4 years old. So yeah, I like it. I prefer the Ford Expedition, the top trim. I think it's called Limited or Platinum, that has the adaptive shocks. I don't like air suspension. I've been on record many times. I don't like cars with air suspension. This car comes standard with air suspension, as far as I can remember, and I don't love it. It's way too soft for my taste. It's really it's very vague and floaty. Even in its sportiest setting, it is not that rewarding to drive. If you want smooth, refined, removed from the environment around you, cruising along with a wonderfully powerful 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine. It is great. And the interior is fantastic. There's no question about that. But if you want the same platform and you want a more dialed in drive, the Ford, in my opinion, gives you a more rewarding experience when it comes to handling. So test it for yourself, and I don't think the vehicle's dated at all. It's only been out for 2 years. What's the deal with the Levorg not coming to North America? Subaru is missing out. This has been brought up over and over and over again with Subaru. The car that you see there is not basically been tested for the North American market. I agree with you. I think it's a really cool car. We were with Subaru in Japan. We got to go to their STI tuning facility where they have their sort of little mini museum, and they had like the Colin McRae rally car there. Really cool to see that from such a iconic driver. They had other cars there, and in the parking lot were the Levorg sitting there, and I'm like, I agree with you. Look at this thing. It's so cool. Wouldn't that be cool to have that sort of wagon type vehicle on the road? But they're not going to bring it, as far as I can tell. They keep telling us it's a compliance issue, wouldn't comply for North American standards. I think that's what car manufacturers say when they don't have the, I think they'd have a hard time making the business case for a wagon. Wagons just aren't selling. Hey Zach, have you heard that Porsche is coming back with a 6-cylinder car for the 718, at least for the GT3, is what I've seen. What do you think about the 4-cylinder? I read an article that Porsche admitted that the turbo 4-cylinders in the Boxster, Cayman, S, and regular models was a misstep. Now, does that mean that they're going to abandon it and bring back the flat 6 for all models, or is it going to just be for specialty models, like say a GTS or a GT4 or something like that? I am a big believer in the flat 6. Now, I'm trying to remember, because this was about 2 weeks ago I read this article, if they said they were going to bring it back. Anyway, it opens the door for them to do it, because I look at the sales of those cars and they're not what they used to be in comparison. Like when they switched to the 4-cylinder, the numbers for about a year and a half, 2 years, and I kept on saying to them, the sales of this aren't very strong. And they said, oh, it's a supply constraint. And I'm like, come on, give me a break. And I have a lot of people who email me and ask me about these cars, and I give them the same answer. It's the car that I'm going to buy. I'm going to get the last of the flat 6-cylinder Boxster S. That's probably going to be my next car, because I think that's the one to buy. And if they don't bring it back, then they're going to hold their value longer. So yeah, I've heard the same thing. Have you heard about the Mazda6 2020 with all-wheel drive? I haven't heard anything official, but it makes perfect sense. They can do it in the scalable platform, the Skyactiv platform for Mazda 3. They could easily, with that scalable platform, put it into Mazda 6. I haven't heard anything, but you know that Camry is going to be available with all-wheel drive. Altima is now available with standard all-wheel drive, and so on and so forth. It makes perfect sense that if they're going to even compete in this space, they've got to come with something that's comparable. So nothing official, but you would almost bet that it's going to happen. You heard Mini with the Clubman? Now it's going to be an SUV, the only way to survive. Wagon and the US don't mix well. It's killing me. Plus, hey, been a while. Basically, it's just a countryman, right? So the problem, okay, just back this bus up a little bit. You're sitting on the board of Mini. What are you going to do? People aren't buying cars. They're not buying small cars. They're not buying sedans. They're buying SUVs, and that's all they're buying. The market has shifted so quickly towards utility vehicles that, you know, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to have a regular Mini Cooper with cladding on it, raised up a little bit and called something Cross or Country or All or Road, or they'll, you know, make it something. But I mean, what do you do at Mini? Every time you bring out a car, it's got to look like a Mini, which gets boring. every time you get in a Mini, it looks the same without way too many buttons and switches. I mean, they're kind of stuck. They painted themselves into a corner. So Mini, the base Mini now, or the Mini Cooper S or the John Works, are a whole lot of fun to drive. So if you're one of these purists that says, I want to save the manuals and have the little fun car, go get one, because they are a load of fun to drive. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, people vote with their wallet, and they're voting and buying anything that looks like a utility vehicle. A good company for tonneau cover for 2019 Ram. Listen, I'm not an accessories guy. I would say go over to Roman's channel on the Fast Lane Truck and see what they have to say. Roman's a great guy, and they'll probably steer you in the right direction. I really don't have an answer for you. I'm not an aftermarket guy. Any plans on reviewing the Cadillac XT6? Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I have to call up and see if that vehicle is available. I have to get my hands on it. You're right. I will get it when I get a moment. Jumping around again. All right. You know what? You see me squinting like this? I probably should wear glasses, but I'm too vain. So I'll just squint. Any thoughts on the 2020 Honda Pilot Touring issues? Any words on when it will get redesigned? So the Honda Pilot is available with the 9-speed automatic transmission, and it's available with the 6-speed. I'm a big believer in the 6-speed, just saying. When that vehicle first came out, it was really bad, the 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, I should say that I have driven the MDX with the updated 9-speed and other Acura and Honda products, and now the 9-speed has been out for a few years, and as I mentioned, with software updates and things. So go and drive it and see if you like it for yourself. One down from that, they have the older transmission, which is bulletproof. So just something to consider. Engine issues, no, I haven't heard anything about that. The only issue I can think of is the 9-speed, and the fact that the Pilot's a little bit what I call plastic fantastic on the inside. Please do yourself a favor and drive the Kia Telluride and the Hyundai Palisade. Now you might have, you know, Japanese snob attitude and you wouldn't consider a Korean car, but do yourself a favor and drive those, and then drive the Pilot. And if you're not in a rush, please wait for the new Highlander. If you are a Japanese car buying snob, wait for the Highlander, because that is going to be the one to beat, I think, after it comes out. So stick around for that. A GR Yaris, yeah, did you see that? The hot hatch Yaris all-wheel drive. Basically, the rally car is going to be made available. I mean, that's so crazy. Zach, take a look at Barrett-Jackson. The Porsches up for auction this week are remarkable and will grow for crazy money. Have you been? Yeah, I've been to Barrett-Jackson. Was a guest of Kia. We went down to Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and we were there. We got to go on the stage and tour around and see all the cars. It's quite something to go and see. And you know, if you're in the Phoenix area at this time of year, it's nice to get out of town if it's cold where you live and check it out. I haven't gone and looked at the list of the cars, but I will, Josh. I'll have a look. The money that's going for brands like Ferrari and Porsche for these harder and rare to find cars is astronomical. But here's the thing, you know, people with money can stick it in the bank, or they can buy a painting for the wall, or a car for their garage, or a Newman Daytona, and enjoy it, and also have something that's going to go up in value. So a lot of people who with money are now catching on to this. So hey, I've made a lot of money, I've inherited a lot of money, I've got a lot of money. Should I just leave it with my investment advisor, or should I go and buy a $1 million car and drive it and enjoy it? And hey, by the way, when I sell it in 10 years, it's going to be worth $4 million. That's what I'd do. Hey, Zach, great show. Looking for 5-sitter, I think you mean 5-seater, SUV, maybe Nautilus 2.7. If the interior be updated, what are the alternatives? That's the one thing about the Nautilus, and they did such a great job in the Lincoln lineup with the Aviator, with this new Corsair, and with the Navigator. They gave them new interiors, but for whatever reason, the Nautilus, they just sort of warmed it over with the stupid push buttons transmission that goes next to the radio. I couldn't figure that out. It's a bit of a half measure. So that makes me believe that there's going to be probably their next victim on the list of things to update totally will be Nautilus. But yeah, looking for alternatives. I mean, in the 5-seater SUV space and that 5-seater, well, the Nautilus is more than 5 seats. No, is it? Yeah, 5-seater. Yeah, that's the Ford Edge one that's posted on the Ford Edge. I'll look at, you know, Audi Q5 is a great all-rounder. You like something that's a little bit quieter and smoother and more refined, that wouldn't be a bad one. The SQ5, if you like the more horsepower, you can get that. That's something to consider. You know, the Cadillac XT5 is a great product too. I mean, every time I've driven it, I've always enjoyed it. It's not very fast, but it's definitely going to be comfortable. So that's one to consider as well. Benefits or disadvantages of having 18-inch rims over 20. Vehicle comes with 20s. Well, as the wheel gets bigger, the tire gets smaller. Okay, so the circumference of the tire, the wheel, overall wheel and tire is the same. Okay, so the wheel in the middle gets bigger, the tire gets smaller. As the tire gets smaller, there's less cushion. Your first line of absorption and insulation from the road and from noise and from vibration and road is that tire. You've got the air there and the tire, the compliance of the tire. As the tire gets thinner, the wall of the tire gets harder, and more shock and vibration goes through the wheel, through the suspension and into the car. Now, that can be looked at as a negative. For sporty cars, for cars with handling, that is a major positive. So the bigger the wheel, the better handling, but then there's typically more road noise and vibration. The smaller the wheel, the bigger the tire, more absorption, bigger cushion, bigger backside, bigger cushion, bigger tire, more cushion. The opposite is true. As you get into the corners, that higher sidewall will start to roll over on its side. You don't get the same kind of handling. Okay, so if you're somebody who likes comfort, smaller wheels would be better. If you're somebody who likes handling, bigger wheels would be better. Then you get into the budget. 18-inch wheels, 18-inch tires, less expensive, especially if you're going to buy a second set of wheels and tires for the winter. So if you're going to buy a second pair of 20-inch winter tires, they can get very spendy. So there you go. It's basically the bigger the wheel, more handling, but less comfort. That's the basic rundown. Do you think Mazda missed the boat offering the diesel CX-5 when hybrids and EVs are starting to dominate the market? I think this was just purely, they said they were going to do it, so they, my God, we're going to do it. And then they put it on the most expensive CX-5 and no one's going to buy it. And then they can kill it off and say, well, we did it and no one bought it. I don't know. There is still a place for a diesel, in my opinion. I mean, you look at people who drive a lot and do a lot of highway driving. If you're in sales and you're on the highway all the time, there are people that do 40, 50,000 kilometers or miles a year. They drive a lot. A diesel is perfect for that, especially for highway driving. They just get such amazing fuel economy. The engines are so durable, they last forever. And they actually put out less CO2. Now, wait a second, Zach. You're talking about stinky, dirty diesels in the Dieselgate. Do not confuse CO2 with pollutants. They're two totally different things. Whenever they show you pictures of a dirty, smoggy city, that is not CO2. CO2 is invisible. What you're looking at is pollution, which is nitrous oxide, low-level ozone, all those sorts of things. That is what Volkswagen screwed up on. That is what they got caught cheating on. The CO2 aspect of it, excuse me, is purely related to fuel economy. So the better your fuel economy is, the lower CO2, which is why in Europe they were so obsessed with producing small, efficient diesel engines that had the best greenhouse gas emissions. And if you want to reduce CO2, get an ultra fuel efficient vehicles. And diesels do that. But EVs and hybrids aren't perfect for everybody. Excuse me. Is North America, or anywhere for that matter, going to see an Escape ST? I think that there's a door definitely open for that. I was a guest of Ford, went down to their, where's an Aspen? They have an ST program there. If you buy an ST car, whether it's a Ford ST or the new Explorer ST, you get to go to their driving academy and hang out with the drivers there and find out what the ST cars can do. So it sounds to me that they're trying to expand that into the utility space. So I think it leaves the door open for that, for sure. Peter says, do you think Tesla has finally made it as an automaker, or do you still wonder about their future viability? I have said in the last few months that the writing is clearly on the wall now that unfortunately for a lot of car companies, it seems that the public is thinking Tesla and nobody else. And this is a major worry I have for the auto industry, because auto manufacturers are having to spend billions of dollars for compliance. So they're going to have to make and develop, engineer, and spend billions of dollars to make electric cars that might just sit on the lot and nobody will buy them. The exceptions, I think, are brands like Volkswagen, who has been so proactive in getting their message out about their ID cars, and they're going to be developing and they're committed to doing it. So that's a brand, because they have such a strong base in Europe, that will probably get some scale with EVs. Another one, if they get their act together and actually start to develop some pure EVs, would be Toyota. Toyota has an enormous amount of goodwill with their brand loyal customers. People buy Toyotas and Lexus cars over and over and over again because they don't disappoint. They deliver. They have great resale value. They don't break down, or they do break down, but every car breaks down, but not as often. They're very reliable and have great resale value. So that's a company, if they really put their mind to it and developed electrified cars along with their hybrids, plug-in hybrids and full electrics, and in the future hydrogen cars, could really get a hold. But right now it seems to be Tesla or nothing. There are certainly some other fine electric cars in the marketplace, but Tesla's creaming them all. Absolutely creaming them all. So yes, is it now a viable automaker? We're getting to the point now where yes, it is actually a real entity. Now, there's still questions about how much money they owe, over $10 billion, and that's not insignificant, but it seems that the market will give them as much money as they need. The shares are over $500 now. It happened in the last week. And it seems that there being no end of goodwill from the market to give them more money to develop their programs. So yeah, it certainly is. And I can say I wholeheartedly agree that that's the case now. What are your thoughts on Subaru using too many CVTs? Well, they will say they're not using too many CVTs. They're using CVTs. It's just a reality of the car industry. Some brands have gone to more cogs in their transmissions, 8 and 9 and even 10-speed automatics. They've decided to go the CVT route. Now, it does deliver much better fuel economy. There's no question about it. Is it the most rewarding? No. They can put in the higher performance CVT that they have in the WRX and they used to have in the Turbo Forester. That was a more dynamic CVT, but still a CVT. Here's the thing, they're selling more cars than they ever have. So are you right or are they right? No, not me, but are they right? I don't know. They seem to have found a formula that works. Yeah, I prefer, if I'm going to choose a car and there's a CVT and there's a regular automatic, I'm going to go with a regular automatic 99.9% out of 100. There you go. My favorite name, DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile. Great handle. What watch did you get for Christmas and did you tell your wife? No, I haven't told her. I will, if you go to the Lincoln Corsair video, it makes an appearance. I do a little hand thing, I'm doing something with the camera, makes an appearance. Somebody spotted it and figured out what it was. So yeah, no, she doesn't know. And my son, if he's watching upstairs, don't spill the beans. All right. It's jumping around again on me here. You mentioned earlier that most car makers are getting away from a 2-clutch system. I just picked up a 19 DSG GLI upgraded from a 13. They're not defective, are they? Thanks, Zach. No, they went to an extra gear, or no, that's this one. I'm trying to remember now. They went to a 7-speed. Yeah, I think yours has got the 7-speed. I noticed when they went from the 6-speed, that's right, they went from the 6-speed to the 7-speed. The one I had the Golf R that was a bit jerky, but then other people chimed in and said they didn't notice it. No, I don't think it's a problem at all. They've been making that for a long time. I'm just telling you as a matter of interest that a lot of car manufacturers are getting away from DSGs. Volkswagen is not. In fact, a dual clutch is going to be standard in the next Golf, okay? What do you think of the Mercedes-Benz GLE 300D? Well, the GLE 300D is diesel, not available here in North America anymore. Jose, I'm not sure where you're chiming in from. If you were given a choice between a Volkswagen Atlas and a Toyota Highlander, what would you happily spend your money considering reliability, occasional inclement BC weather, safety, etc.? If it was me, it would be down to the Highlander and the Telluride. And right now, today, it would be Telluride. Now, I haven't driven the new Highlander, so I'll hold off judgment on that. And the Volkswagen Atlas, I think it needs a turbo 6-cylinder. I think the VR6 is bulletproof. It's a great engine. I think it's bad on gas. That's my only downside for that. So yeah, if it's between those two, the Highlander doesn't handle the same way as the Atlas. The Atlas is a better handling car. The Highlander is a bit pokey. It's not the best handling. Which one's going to be better in inclement weather? Probably tip the hat to Volkswagen's 4Motion system over the Highlander slip and grip system. Then again, check out the system in the Telluride. They use the same as the H-Track on the Hyundai side, which is a Magna-derived all-wheel drive system. It's actually pretty advanced. So yeah, check that vehicle out. As I mentioned, if you didn't tune in at the beginning, Kia just won North American Utility of the Year this morning with the Telluride. Or the Palisade, same thing. Is the Civic still the #1 selling vehicle in Canada? I think not, as I don't see that many of them in Montreal to justify. #1 selling vehicle is the Ford F-150 by a long shot. What Honda does in their advertising is a bit different. It's not sneaky, they're telling the truth. It's the #1 selling sedan or car, #1 selling car. So when you get into utilities, RAV4 is the best-selling utility. Honda Civic is the best-selling car, and F-150 is the best-selling vehicle overall. So yes, it will probably still be #1, but car, okay? Which is a shrinking category, definitely. Mark says, what do you think of the new CR-V 2020? Is it a good choice, or buy 2020 or wait for the 2021? I think the CR-V is just a facelift. I'm getting it in a few weeks, in the 11th of February, so check back. No major changes. So if you're waiting for a wholesale change, yeah, you might want to wait a little bit longer. Yeah, it's just cosmetic. Hey Zach, would a 17 B9 A4 with 45,000 kilometers be a good buy, considering a German sedan to drive in Ontario? I said it earlier, I like the A4 a lot. Please do your research, get the car inspected by an independent third-party mechanic. You pay for the pre-purchase inspection. You're the only one that sees it. Please try and find one that's got a certified pre-owned warranty. That's a good way to go. I think it's a great car. I have no problem at all around that vehicle. All right, so we are up against the clock. If I don't get to your question, I do read them all. And if it's really pressing, you can always go to my website, motormouth.ca, and get a question to me that way, okay, via email. So thanks to everybody. I wanted to say, is this the first show of the new year? I think we did one already, didn't we, last week? Yeah, anyway, it's Happy New Year again if we did, or we did not. I'm going to be around for a few weeks. I'm here next Monday, and then my first trip is in February. I'm going to Portugal to drive something from Porsche. They won't tell me what it is. I think it might be the 911 Turbo. I have my ticket, and we're going to Estoril in Portugal, which is the racetrack. So it could be that. I'll tell you more when I find out. That's it. I'll speak to you next time. Have a great week.